OK, well, this weekend, Sky News has been bringing you some extraordinary reporting from live on the ground in Syria. Sectarian clashes between Bedouin and Druze fighters in the south of the country have left hundreds of people dead. The Syrian president says there's now a ceasefire in the southern city of Sueda, but our teams have seen horrifying scenes of executed and burned bodies lying on the streets. Our special correspondent, Alex Crawford, is there, and I can speak to Alex now. Good morning, Alex.
Morning, Trevor.
Well, I've got to say, you know, I've been in war zones myself and so on, but I have to say your report that I saw last night is absolutely extraordinary. What is the situation there this morning?
Well, we're actually at one of the key checkpoints out on the outskirts of Sueda city. We're about 20 kilometres away from the city centre. You can see behind me, probably, I hope, a large group of Syrian government internal security forces who have been brought into the area. Now, over the past few hours, the situation definitely appears to have calmed down a bit. I wouldn't describe the ceasefire as anything other than fragile and shaky, and it could go either way at the moment. But overnight they have erected berms and built barricades to stop the hundreds, thousands of Arab tribal fighters who'd massed around this area and who were battling Druze militia inside Sueda city. They're all being kept away, we're 20 kilometres away from the city centre, and they have withdrawn. Just in the last half hour or so, a number of tribal leaders have been addressing them and telling them that we've agreed, we're going to work with the government, we're going to retreat, we're going to lay down our weapons for now and see what happens inside the city centre. There are still tens of thousands of civilians who are believed to be trapped inside the city centre. The city centre has no electricity, no water, the food is scarce, the hospitals are absolutely packed with the dead and injured, and a number of people who couldn't move at all when we were in the city centre yesterday. The ceasefire was meant to take hold yesterday, but it clearly hadn't. They were struggling to implement the ceasefire. There was a lot of very violent clashes, and we saw a lot of dead bodies on the streets. They appeared to have been executed. A number of them had gunshot wounds to the back of their heads. There have been reports of kidnappings. There's a lot of material which is going viral on social media posts, and that is incentivizing all of these these fighters and the fighting. And President al-Shara, who's head of a very new government, having come to power and toppling Bashar al-Assad, the long-time dictator, just in December, has been really struggling to keep a hold of this situation. Tensions are still very inflamed because they're not sure. They keep on saying, these Arab tribal groups, that they are not against the Druze, that this is not a sectarian fight, although it looks very much like that to outsiders like myself and many others, but they're directing their ire, their anger against one particular leader, a cleric called Hikmat Hajjari, who's leading a particular Druze faction. He's a very influential, powerful cleric, but who has called on Israel to intervene midweek, and you saw the bombings of key military installations, the Ministry of Defence in Damascus, as well as a number of forces positions here. Those airstrikes, Israeli airstrikes, killed hundreds of Syrian troops. So it's been very difficult since then. That led to hundreds of thousands of tribal fighters from all over Syria massing in this point, and they've been absolutely brutal mayhem and total anarchy inside the city, with mass looting, mass pillaging, and it looks like a substantial number of deaths.
We saw you in a live firefight yesterday, Alex, and also you've obviously been covering what happened in some of the Druze districts, and I am pretty sure that we haven't seen the worst of it because we can't actually show it. What do you think the Druze are going to do in response to what has happened? Their homes have been burnt out and so on.
I think we need to separate the Druze groups, because there are large numbers of Druze people who want to work with President al-Shara and be part of an inclusive new Syria without dictator Bashar al-Assad. And there is this influential Druze faction, which is led by Hikmat al-Hajri, who do not. They feel very vulnerable. They do not trust the new government. They see them as Islamic jihadists, mainly unreformed, because they have the backing of Israel, who sees the new government in similar terms, or at least a number of the key ministers have called the government and the president an unreformed jihadist. They have a lot of power and influence because of the backing that they're getting from Israel. However, America, another key global player, has indicated its displeasure with the Israeli strikes in Syria. There's a lot of discontent with the government for withdrawing its troops from Sweda city in the first place. And President al-Shara is, on the face of it at least, appears to be trying to calm the situation and promote a much more inclusive Syria. I think the Druze faction that is led by Hikmat Hajri has already shown it is very capable of upsetting a massive, complicated apple cart, and they have been accused of a number of substantial brutalities and atrocities, along with the other ethnic minority that resides in that city, the Bedouins, who all of these Arab tribes have flocked to support and defend. So it is not an easy, straightforward map that you're looking at, ethnic map, international political map. It is extremely complex. And I think most people in Syria, though, and especially the ones around here that we've been seeing, I mean, we've been talking to doctors, engineers, architects who've travelled from Aleppo and Damascus, who have got guns on their backs now and are saying, we're doctors, we're here to primarily provide humanitarian aid, but we're also going to fight a man, the Druze militia, Hikmat al-Hajri, who they see as a criminal gang leader who now has the backing of Israel. Israel, of course, as you know, its narrative is very different. It's portraying this as a rush to defend the Druze. But everyone we speak to says that they want a united Syria, and they definitely do not want outside international interference. So very, very complex and difficult to work out who has carried out all the killings. There has definitely been atrocities on both sides.